Okay, this is going to offend a lot of people, but I have to say it. Lil Wayne should not be headlining the Super Bowl in New Orleans. I know we love Lil Wayne. He's a legend. He's an icon. He soundtracked most of our childhoods. But Kendrick Lamar is the better person to headline the Super Bowl. And we are going to discuss all of the reasons why. So, ever since news came out that Kendrick Lamar was going to be headlining the Super Bowl next year in New Orleans, everybody in the music industry started going crazy. Artists were coming out, fans were coming out, and they were saying, no, it's justice for Lil Wayne. Lil Wayne is New Orleans. He's Cash Money. This was one of the instrumental labels that put New Orleans on the hip hop map. And it's got to be Weezy. We want to see Lil Tunechi come out. There were a lot of big names that came out in support of Lil Wayne. Probably the loudest was Nicki Minaj, his Young Money contemporary. She came out and went on a whole tirade throwing shots. Most of these shots were clearly set at Jay-Z and Roc Nation because, as you know, Roc Nation is in a partnership with the NFL. They're very hands-on in helping guide the Super Bowl and specifically the halftime show. So Nicki came out and said a lot of stuff, and she just came out guns blazing. I couldn't really follow what she was saying after a while, but the long and short of it, if you can decipher it, is she said justice for Lil Wayne. A lot of other artists came out too. Fabolous came out. Even Master P, who did give Kendrick his props, felt like Lil Wayne is a legend. He needs to get his flowers. So a lot of people in the music business, I think Birdman said something about putting some respect on Lil Wayne's name. Of course, with their stunning Like My Daddy relationship, I see where he's coming with that, with kind of the OG Cash Money. So this is a big conversation right now. Should Lil Wayne be the headliner? And did the NFL make a mistake by picking Kendrick Lamar instead? And I'm saying no. I think Kendrick is the right person to be the Super Bowl headliner. For this video, I want to go through some of the factors that I think the NFL was thinking about as they were deciding on a halftime performer. So let's just do this exercise. For this video, just for a moment, let's not be hip hop heads. Let's just put to the side how we feel about Lil Wayne, the fact that we're fans of his music. Let's take away just sort of his legacy and the fact that he has influenced an entire generation of artists after him. And let's really just focus on each of these factors and look at it through the lens like if we were executives at the NFL. So for this video, we all work for the NFL, and we're going to think about Lil Wayne through each of these factors and then decide at the end of the video, would we recommend him to the commissioner, to Roger Goodell, that this is the person that we want performing at the halftime show. So you're with me, like for this moment, just put aside your hip hop head, that kind of lens that you look through the world, which usually we love. But for this video, we got to think like big brand executives. We represent a multi-billion-dollar brand. This is the NFL, the National Football League, and this is our biggest game of the entire season. This is a game that people all over the world are watching. It's one of, if not the highest rated show in America, and it's also being telecast around the world. So who we put on for our halftime program has to hit all of these factors. Okay, are you ready? Let's start out with name recognition. Is Lil Wayne a household name? Now again, for us as hip hop fans, the answer is easily yes. I'm sure most of you have been following Wayne since the Cash Money era. You know about that mixtape Wayne. You know about that Carter Wayne. We know these things intimately. But again, we're thinking as executives. If we work for the NFL, do we know who Lil Wayne is? I'm going to say possibly. The only reason that I say that is Lil Wayne is pretty active within the sports world. Specifically, he is a big football fan. I know I used to see him on like Skip and Shannon, and you see him on some of these like roundtable shows. He's pretty knowledgeable about sports. So I'll say there's some recognition there that, okay, we know who he is. We may not know all of his catalog. We may not know his life story, but we kind of know who he is. That said, Wayne's height was arguably what, like 2008? So we're talking 16 years ago. So from a fame perspective, would I say that he's a A-list artist right now in 2024 and then looking forward into 2025? No, I think he's somebody who would be seen as a legend, as someone who's an OG, but as someone whose biggest days are behind him, not in front of him. So, insofar as name recognition, I could see it going 50-50. Some of the people at the NFL, maybe some of the younger people knowing who Wayne is, a lot of the older heads probably have no idea. And if you want to do a test, ask someone outside of hip hop. It could be like your mom, it could be your friend who just does not care about hip hop. Ask them who Lil Wayne is. Do they know who that person is? So I actually did this just as a litmus test before this video. I asked my mom, do you know who Lil Wayne is? And she said yes. So I was like, all right, cool. So the name recognition is there. She said she knew the name, she knew what he looked like, but she couldn't name any records. And we're going to get into that shortly. So I think from a name recognition standpoint, I would give like a lukewarm yes. Like Lil Wayne is well known enough. He's not so esoteric that people don't know who he is, but I'm also not super confident that every single executive in the NFL, especially older people, would know who he is. So for this factor, for name recognition, I'm going to give him like a 50%, like maybe. Now, the next factor is going to be catalog. So what we just talked about, you might know the name Lil Wayne. Do you know his records? And that's where I think most people are not going to be able to say a resounding yes. For us as hip hop heads, like if you ask me what are Wayne's biggest records, I mean, off the top, I'm thinking obviously Back That Ass Up. So that comes from the Cash Money catalog. I would say maybe Got Money with like T-Pain. I'm thinking through that like Carter 3 era. Maybe Go DJ, like maybe. That's what I'm thinking. So in my mind, those are his biggest records. But I'm trying to think of what are the records that people know outside of just the diehard fans. What are the records that somebody at the NFL would be comfortable with, that they'd be familiar with, that they would feel good about him performing at the halftime show? Okay, so I pulled up Wikipedia just to see and actually fact check what Lil Wayne's biggest records are. So we're on the Lil Wayne singles discography. He's released 286 singles. Wow, that's a lot of music. Okay, Back That Ass Up. So that is on here. And that peaked at number 19 on the Hot 100. So that's something he absolutely would perform. And then it looks like his biggest record was Lollipop. That was his first number one single on the Hot 100 and was certified diamond by the RIAA. Wow. I mean, I was there. I worked that record and I totally forgot about it. Okay, so Lollipop is probably his biggest record. There's A Milli, Got Money, Mrs. Officer. So yeah, there are some records. And then if you get more into the deeper cuts, of course, there's like Stunning Like My Daddy, Go DJ. But I think for like a mainstream audience, it's going to be Lollipop, A Milli, Got Money, maybe Mrs. Officer, possibly Back That Ass Up. Because as I'm also thinking, it's not just the catalog of hits, because clearly this guy's got a couple like really big multi-platinum diamond records, but I'm also thinking about what can he conceivably perform at the halftime show. So let's take a step back. The Super Bowl halftime show is something that needs to be family friendly. This is a show that anyone from like the little kid all the way to the adults in the house should be able to watch. Let's not forget what happened 20 years ago when Janet Jackson and Justin Timberlake performed and the famous wardrobe malfunction changed the world. The minute that happened, the Super Bowl was inundated with angry letters and phone calls. People were just shocked, like, think of the children, what will they say, you know, seeing a woman's body. But that sort of conservative nature is very much inbuilt into the Super Bowl. Does that mean that every Super Bowl halftime show is completely PG or vanilla? No, absolutely not. I'm thinking of even like J-Lo, Shakira. I mean, they were showing skin. There was a lot of gyration going on. But I think by and large, it has to be family friendly and it has to be safe. Because again, in this video, we're thinking like NFL executives. Not only are we protecting our brand and the brand of the league, but we also got to think about our partners. We have to think about our sponsors. Advertisers spend millions and millions of dollars to put an ad during the Super Bowl. We don't want anyone to feel offended. So that's the other thing we're going to keep thinking about as we contemplate Lil Wayne. We got to think about all our stakeholders, because at the end of the day, the Super Bowl makes a lot of money for a lot of people. We don't want to offend anybody. And let's be honest, most of Lil Wayne's catalog is not really family friendly. It isn't terrible, like it's, not like, I don't know, Too Short or like Uncle Luke or something, but it definitely is something that's a bit more suggestive, a little bit more sexually explicit. I'm just not sure if the NFL and all of its partners would be excited about these songs being played at the Super Bowl. So on this factor, I'm not really feeling it. I don't think Wayne has the catalog that would be family friendly enough for the NFL. One of the most important aspects of picking a Super Bowl headliner is the performance. Can this artist perform live? Are they someone with a history of being able to do that big stage? These are huge arenas. These are stages that are 360 degrees around. You need to be able to perform at the highest level. So the question is, can Lil Wayne perform in an arena in 2024? Now, as I said in my previous video discussing Kendrick being the headliner, I did see Lil Wayne perform during the Hip Hop 50 show at Yankee Stadium in the Bronx, and he was amazing. He did a solid set. It was just hit after hit after hit. He had great energy. He had a great disposition about him. But I'm going to be honest, when I knew Wayne was going on next, I started walking away to go get a hot dog. I wasn't excited to see Wayne. I really thought this is a good way for me to go get like some refreshments, recharge my energy, and then come back before the headliner Nas was going to take the stage. I was pleasantly surprised. So I can say, as somebody who has seen Wayne somewhat recently, I do think that he could perform potentially on a big stage. I think the problem is some of his recent performances have just not been great. And I think the problem for Lil Wayne is a lot of recent performances are starting to circulate that just aren't very good. So I want to show you, this is from 5 months ago when Lil Wayne performed at the WWE. And this is a great comparison because it's a big venue and it's also like somewhat sports related. So again, we're executives at the NFL. We're thinking through that lens. So let's say we watch this video. Based upon this, would you hire Lil Wayne to be the headliner? Oh, that was terrible. He just had like no energy. The wrestler guy with him, and I'm not familiar with him, but he had more energy than Lil Wayne. That was not good. Okay, let's look at another performance. This is Lil Wayne performing his song Love Me at the 2024 Essence Festival. So again, this is a corporate sponsored big music festival. This was in New Orleans, in his hometown. So maybe Wayne's going to fare a little bit better on this stage.
Thank you.
Sure, that was a little better, I guess. But again, let's imagine that the NFL, they're looking through Wayne's recent performances. It's not great. It's really not great. And then we compare that to Kendrick, who just did the pop out a few months ago, and he absolutely killed it. He did the Forum and he commanded the Forum. He was able to show that he can be on that stage by himself. He can have guests on that stage and still be the star on the stage. So I think when it comes to performances, at least from what we've seen more recently, I don't think Lil Wayne would be a strong contender. Now, speaking of guests, I think this is one area that Lil Wayne would excel in. If Wayne were the headliner, I think he would just bring out so many heavy hitters onto the Super Bowl stage. Of course, we would get Cash Money, so we'd probably get a great like Birdman moment, Juvenile, Manny Fresh. And if you've seen, those individual guys have just been doing some great performances. Juvenile and Manny Fresh, if you haven't checked out his Tiny Desk, I highly, highly recommend it. So I think there could be a really nice like Hot Boys moment, a really great Cash Money moment. Of course, Lil Wayne is going to bring out Nicki Minaj. He's going to bring out Drake because he was so instrumental in their careers. It wouldn't be far-fetched to think that they would come and support Lil Wayne. Now, the question is, would Nicki and Drake overshadow Wayne? That is a possibility because they are two of the biggest artists in the world. You bring them out, are they going to be the headline and not Lil Wayne? A lot of people were saying the reason that Nicki has been so adamant and outspoken wanting Lil Wayne to be the performer was because she's kind of selfishly wanted to be on stage too. And that makes sense. I mean, if Wayne is going to be out there, if he's going to show this like trajectory of his career, Young Money is an integral part of it. So why wouldn't he call Nicki and Drake? And overall, people like Lil Wayne in the industry. He doesn't really have a lot of enemies insofar as other artists. I could see people showing up for him, whether they be from New Orleans, whether they worked with him directly, or just in general wanting to support him. So when it comes to guests, I would say that Wayne probably can pull in more star power than most artists. Now, of all of the factors that NFL is contemplating, I think this is the biggest one: brand. Who is Lil Wayne and what does his brand represent? And does that align with the NFL and the NFL's interests? As we said, the NFL is very protective of its brand. This is the brand that's supposed to represent excellence, specifically in football, supposed to be America's sport. The NFL wants to portray an image of unity, of patriotism, of family values. Regardless of how you feel about the NFL, that's what they want to portray. They want to show inclusivity. They want to show that this is a good time. This is something that their partners, their sponsors, and most importantly, their advertisers feel good about investing in. And let's be honest, Lil Wayne's brand is kind of none of those things. Now, we love him for it. Lil Tunechi was the first rock star. This was the guy who, ditched the mic and he's skateboarding. He has like the lean in his cup. I mean, he's the person completely tatted up. He's living that rock star life. Like, Wayne represents sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Those are three things the NFL does not want to represent. All we have to do is Google Lil Wayne's name, and we're seeing drug charges. We're seeing health issues he had with his seizures. Some people have insinuated that maybe those seizures were, if not caused, possibly exacerbated by lean use. He has been open about some of his addiction problems in the past. He's even said sometimes he forgets his own song lyrics. That is not somebody that the NFL wants to align with as a headliner. Now let's look on the flip side. What do we know about Kendrick Lamar? Most of us know very little about this man, and aside from the shots that Drake threw at him during the rap battle, which at least on paper, on surface, seem not to have been true because we see he's still cool with Dave Free, he's still cool with Whitney, so all of those allegations, whether it be of domestic violence, whether it be of him kind of living this double life, at least outside looking in, those don't seem to be true. So on one hand, you have Lil Wayne, who has a lot of baggage, and then you have Kendrick, who has very little. Who would you hire? And the other part is the liability. When we're booking a headliner now, we're thinking in the future. So can we predict not only is Lil Wayne a viable option today, but is he a viable option for February? And that's a very different idea. That's a very different philosophy that we have to think through. Whoever the Super Bowl decides to pick as a halftime performer has to be a safe bet, not only today, but has to be a safe bet months and months into the future. If we look back, somebody like an Usher, I think, was a great idea. He was already in Vegas for his residency, and we had seen from his residency that he's still an incredible performer. In the past, we knew that he was an A-list performer, but a lot of people, it was only through the Vegas residency did they see that he still had it. He was in tip-top shape, his voice sounded amazing, he looked amazing. So if we're the Super Bowl, we feel good, we feel comfortable about hiring Usher. Based upon what we've seen in just these few video footages from Lil Wayne, I wouldn't feel comfortable booking him, would you? The other aspect is the cultural impact and influence. Right now, Kendrick is the leader when it comes to hip hop. Kendrick has shown that not only was he the winner of the battle with Drake, but he truly represents the culture. What do you say on what the culture is feeling? If we're the NFL, we want to tap into that. We want to look like we know what's going on right now, and we're not just chasing after the streams. We're not chasing after the biggest TikToker. We're going after the person who's authentic, the person who has respect, not only from OGs, but also from young fans. We want to feel like we're a part of this larger cultural conversation. As I said in a previous video, especially with Not Like Us, Kendrick has hit so many different touch points. He's got hip hop on lock, the music business, pop culture, politics with what's going on with the DNC, and Kamala Harris using freedom as sort of like her signature song in this election. But now we have him in sports. So again, if we're the NFL, we want to be a part of a positive cultural conversation. Again, notice I said positive cultural conversation. All publicity is not good publicity when you represent a multi-billion-dollar brand. You want to go with the safe bet. You want to go with the bet where you're thinking, all right, if we invest in Kendrick today, not much is going to change 6 months from now. He's still going to be an amazing performer. He's still going to have the respect, the credibility. His personal life seems pretty safe. We don't think he's going to go off the handle. We really don't see anything negative. The only thing that might come is maybe he responds to Drake if Drake kind of keeps poking at him. But outside of that, as the NFL, we feel really good that he can put on an incredible show. He's going to sound great. He's in good physical form. His records are still going to hit. We know that he can bring out A-list guests. And this is something we didn't talk about earlier, Kendrick has done the Super Bowl before. During that whole West Coast medley, Kendrick came out and did an amazing job. So we already have seen there's past history. There's precedent that Kendrick can do a great job. With Lil Wayne, it's almost like kind of throwing something at a wall and hoping that it works. When did it become expected that just because the Super Bowl is held in a city, that the main headliner has to be from that city? That has never existed before. Like Michael Jackson was the first big headliner, right, back in the day. The Super Bowl was not in Gary, Indiana. Fast forward, whether it's Rihanna, Beyonce, Maroon 5, Justin Timberlake, it doesn't matter where the Super Bowl is, you're booking the performer first. I think that West Coast Super Bowl really changed people's minds, and it was an amazing moment. Great moment for the West Coast, great moment for hip hop, but I think that was a bit of an anomaly, and I don't know if that came from Roc Nation or Apple Music, because the people performing do have relationships with those partners, but I feel that was like a one-off, and I don't think the Super Bowl wants to feel tethered to any specific city. Do I think that Kendrick is going to bring out people from New Orleans? Absolutely. I think we're going to see the New Orleans marching band. We'll probably get moments of Master P and No Limit, maybe a Cash Money moment. And I would hope that Lil Wayne does come out. I think he could do like a solid few segments of a few songs. It shows that he represents the city, he represents football, and it'll be like a really nice moment for Wayne. But I don't think it has to be imperative that just because the Super Bowl is in New Orleans, the main headliner has to be from that city. So when we look at all of these factors, and again, looking through the lens as NFL executives, I'm sorry, Tunchi, I'm going to go with a no. When it comes to the 2025 Super Bowl, Lil Wayne should not be the headliner. I just don't think that he would be a safe bet for us to have, for us as the NFL, but also for our partners, for the fans, everybody watching at home. I just don't see it. I think Kendrick is the way better bet this time. What do you think? Do you think that Lil Wayne should be headlining the Super Bowl? If so, why do you think that should be? Is it just because he's from New Orleans or he loves football? Or is there something specific that you can point to why he would be a better contender than Kendrick Lamar? Let me know in the comments.